Hello, and let's get Blaster Blading. I could give you guys an update on why I haven't been uploading, or I could just show you a cool Seekers list that I've been working on. But the gist of it is that, I started going to locals for Vanguard, and playing Overdressed is, kind of okay. I don't super love the format, but it's not, the most egregious thing ever. I just think that, Vanguard is a game about, your clan, and Overdressed doesn't really let you express your clan. Yeah, sure, there are guidelines, but it's not the same thing as a clan. But sometimes we get to play V Premium or Premium, and I get to bring many decks. So with that out of the way, let's get into the profile. So I've been playing Seeker, or Seeker Think Saver Dragon, and that deck is really fun. It's a very fun tier 2, tier 3 deck. It's not competitive. It can feel like it's really good when you go first. This deck going first is just oh, so good. But this is kind of like my build of the deck without the Jewel Knight cards of the second wave, so the wave with Salome and Eunice and those cards. Because I'm not a dedicated Royals main, but I could get the cards, but at the same time it's this is not a deck that I play often, it's just a deck that I like playing and I like, making it work. So get your markers. You don't need that many markers because this deck doesn't really re-ride. You just kind of Legion the Mato, you seek your Mato and you kind of go off and you make markers and, your Blaster starts blading. So we have 4 copies of, Secret Thing Saver Dragon. He's your main guy. You have his skill that on place you CB1 to call a Seeker or Blast Blade Seeker, and then at the end of the battle that he attacks if you didn't ride, Soul Blast 3, shuffle 4 back, 4 cards back, and then you ride a copy of him. This is basically your built-in multi-attack engine, which is why I like this deck, is because, some Royal decks kind of don't really have multi-attacking, or didn't have multi-attacking for a while, like MLB. And maybe I'll even bring an MLB deck profile, because I think that deck is actually, really, really fun. And it's actually, pretty good. More than people give it credit for. But yeah, you have a built-in multi-attack engine, and, he farms you cards, and he scales really well into the late game. So the idea of the deck, you just kind of survive early, and then the late game kind of fixes it for you. You just pop off in the late game. Also, shoutouts to this beautiful playmat from Zero Damage Gaming. I do not have a promo code, but it is a really nice mat. Let me also turn the light on so you guys can see the cards a bit better. Then we have 3 copies of Ashley. She is another multi-attack extender. You just kind of use her to, farm some soul. You use her as the soul, as a payoff for the soul that you can farm and then call out Jewel Knights. And also she has the effect that the thing that you call on top of her, you can CB1 to give it a crit. This deck doesn't really go through CB that much. Your main form of CB is your Seeker Thing Saver Dragon, so any spare CB, or when your opponent's at 4 damage, Ashley is a really good way to use your CB, because you're going to be swinging for really good numbers, and you can pressure your opponent a lot. 3 copies of Blaster Blade Seeker. This is your Blaster Blade, or your Seek the Mato, your the Aichi to your Kai, if you wanna say that. Card's really good. It's a free-ish form of removal that this deck kind of appreciates. Being able to just pitch a card to pop a front row unit is really, really good. And also you can give your Vanguard a crit, so this can be even himself. So if you're going second, remember that Blaster Blade never beats down, he always beats up. So same grade, or as long as you're the same grade as your Vanguard or the lower grade, then you can get yourself a crit, which is pretty solid. So he can give himself a crit if he is on Van, or most likely he's going to give your Thing Saver Dragon the crit, which makes your Vanguard screen actually threatening, because you can kind of just burst your opponent from drive checking a crit, and then all of a sudden you're dealing 3 damage, and it feels really good. The other skill's pretty good. Just if you didn't ride when you attack with him, he goes into your deck and you draw cards. So generally you can start the turn with swing with him for a mediocre number, which is still pretty good, and then he kind of refunds himself, and then you recall him out. So a lot of the deck is just kind of when you want to farm for cards, you just want to loop him a little bit just to kind of build a hand. Then we play the Jewel Knight, that is very affordable. We play Lael. Lael is really, really good for just putting back normal units. Ideally, you want to put things to you want to put your rerides, your Ashleys, and also she gains power and she soul charges, and she also gives the effect that when you call something on top of her, gains 10k. So she's how you can extend into better numbers if you want to rip even more shield out of your opponent's hand, or just basically rip out the PG. Then we play what I like to call the Levaro engine. So we just play 2 copies of Levaro, because Like I said, this deck doesn't really go through CB that much, and so like spare CB, you want to use it for like plussing yourself, and Lavaro is basically like a +1 to board, and then you can convert that CB into like more, but also the fact that he can kind of make a field for free with just the soul, which is really good. So like early game you can rush with Lavaro, or even after you, even in like vanilla turns, because Seeker doesn't really like use CB. You only use CB to call out the Blaster Blade, but then like because you're rewriting and then you're restanding you're like rewriting your Vanguard and you're getting more drive checks, even when you don't have CB but you have like tons of soul, you can use Lavaro to kind of like make another guy, and then that way you can like you have two things to pass triggers onto. So it's pretty good. Also, he can get the Blaster Blade Seeker out, and then you can use the Seeker's effect to then like give yourself a way into it. So Lavaro is just like really good to open and start your turns with. And then we play one copy of Loading Angel and one copy of Starlight Violinist. So I've played a bunch of different grade 2s in this game, Rabble and like Espongal, and I think I came to the conclusion that like the only things you want to be calling out of Lavaro is basically like either defense or like farm cards. He's really just there for that. Like he is the best thing to plus you with your grade 2s. So Loading Angel being able to go into Soul and then draw 2 cards is really, really good because that's a Soul Charge and a draw and 2 draws, which is phenomenal. This deck like loves to go through Soul, so this card is like really, really nice. And also you can just like call it into the back row. Like the card doesn't need to be in the front row Rearguard circle to gain value. Like the card just being a thing that you can call to board and then leaves and draws you cards is really good. And then we have the Starlight Violinist. If you're brave in V-era brave and you don't have CB, all of your grade 2s gain boost and can intercept from the back row. So, first of all, I think the card's just like really sick. I don't know, there's something about this. This was like one of the first like pseudo-expensive double rares that I bought, and I think the card looks really clean. But because you can call grade 2s off Lavaro, or even like Ashley and stuff like that, like it's nice to just have the ability to like guard from back row, especially like because sometimes the opponent can just like throw pokes at you, but if you use Lavaro to call a grade 2 into the back row, and you don't have CB, then you just gain a little bit of value, and the card is pretty solid. And then like if your opponent ever gets rid of it, you just shuffle it back and recall it off Lavaro. Which is neat about this deck is that like you never really go to deck out between like all the shuffling between like all the resources that you put back and the triggers. Speaking of triggers, before I go into the grade 1s, I want you to understand that the thing about that's so disgusting about Seeker Thing Saver Dragon is that you actually don't have to put back normal units, you can put back triggers. So when you play in the deck, keep in mind that like you want to be shuffling as many triggers into the deck as possible, and everything else in your deck can shuffle back units. When I say everything else, it's generally like the Jewel Knights. So save, like when you go through a lot of triggers to guard, you want to be using like the Seeker to put those crits back, because like crits just become like more threatening, especially in your second Vanguard swing, because you're kind of compressing a lot of your deck. And ideally you want to time the rewrite in a way where like you put the triggers back and then you can try check triggers, and then after that, that's when you want to start putting the normal units back into your deck, because you're going to put them to the bottom anyway, so it's not like you're messing with your deck, and it also means that you're more likely to get them defensively. Even if you're really unlucky and you check like blanks, then you're more likely to then get defensive triggers, which is fine, because this deck just wants to live, and then inevitability will close out the game. Grade 1s is pretty simple. Obviously you play Sisyllus because he is your big booster, as well as like your way to get into early game, secure your Seeker Thing Saver Dragon. Like once you have the 1, you're fine, you never need to find it again, but finding that 1 is like super important. But late game, this card's really important to get your Ashleys, because Ashley is how you can like do your yellow card combos and beat your opponent down and kill them. And then we play Marvelous. This is like my preferred right target. Card's really good. If you call something on top of her, you draw cards. So at worst she filters, but the ability to also gain a soul by exchanging a CB is really nice. And like I said, like you can kind of just like loop her. Like if you have 2 copies of her, you can call one and call the other one and then call something else. And you're not really going neg. You're just kind of filling up the drop zone with your normal units, so your Jewel Knights can gain value, and you're kind of just like cycling more of your deck so you can get to more pieces. MVP of the deck has to be Lucius. This card is, when you think about like Royal Paladin AMV fucking like combo video where you're attacking with a bunch of Blaster Blades and stuff, like it's usually Lucius that does it all, especially in this deck. The fact that it goes into soul, draws you a card, and then calls something from hand on your ride makes the card like insanely good. One sec. And this is how you can get like double Ashley swings, because like you can have an Ashley on field and you attack with her, call a Jewel Knight, and then Lucius goes into soul, calls a second Ashley from hand, and then that's a lot of attacks. So you know, this card just kind of does it all. Like the more copies of Lucius you see, the better. And because I don't have Eunice, I figured out to play Augustus. Augustus gains a lot of value in this deck. You can do like the cheeky rush in this deck where you can kind of roleplay shadows a little bit, and if you have, let me find it, if you have like going first and your opponent, like if you go second, right, and your opponent gives you a CB, you can like ride Seeker, call Lucius. You're not going to gain the crit, but this is like effectively an 18k Twin Drive Vanguard swing on turn 2, which is really solid. I'm kind of just going through this deck profile a little bit faster, just because like I don't want to ramble on for too long, and like, you know, you can read these cards yourself. I'm kind of just giving you an idea why to play the card and like the role that the card does into the deck. But yeah, this card just gains a lot of value because it is an 18. It's a restanding booster, so you know you can like boost with this, and then you ride your Seeker. Things like a dragon skill, and then this restand. So like on the column, on like side columns, this card's really good. On Ashley columns, this card's really good. On the force marker columns, this card's really good. Just to give you those like magic numbers that this deck really likes. And you don't really need multiple copies of it. Like the card is nice, but generally the one copy is fine. Like you don't mind too much. Like if you don't see him, but if you see him, the card just feels really good. Also, I'm using my Century Guard Dragon sleeves on this deck. I just thought it'd be kind of funny. And I also have the deck in the Century Guard Dragon deck box from the Century Guard Dragon product from like ages ago. And then for grade 0s, I'm running Milius. You could run Ambrosius is fine. I think Ambrosius is getting a little bit too like used for my taste. Like everybody uses Ambrosius because like it's a very accessible triple foil in your grade 0. But I like Milius, you know, even though he's not foiled, I don't have the SP, I'm a little bit broke. Card's nice. Has nice artwork. I also put him in the Gurgwit sleeve because I thought that would also be very funny. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. Like it's pretty solid. Like you kind of just Seeker, Century Guard Dragon, and then like as many Jewel Knights as you can play. Like all the good Jewel Knights, you play those. Don't play the Ashley reverse specific stuff, but like if you have the other grade 2 Jewel Knights, you can make this deck build. You can make the deck building a lot easier because then you just play those. Those cards are pretty efficient. But I figured I'd try to build a deck without them, and also I don't want to buy them, so, you know. A crit, you know, Epona and Flogel, gotta go. These should be the Royal Paladin go-tos. Lou is fine, but, you know. And then we play 4 PGs, and then we play 8 heals. So, you know, pretty standard, simple lineup. However, like I said, the thing that I, once again, want to emphasize is that, this, and this, and where is Ashley? And this, and this. So, these are essentially like your main playmakers of the deck. These are the cards that are going to win you the game most of the time. Like this will be able to extend your multi-attacks off of this. This will be able to call this. This is going to become huge and give this a crit. This will get you into the into the Jewel Knight engine, and then like if you have the spare CB, if you want to go for a kill turn, then using the CB to give it a crit is insane. The crazy thing about this deck is that like you get like double value off of your force markers. So sometimes I like just having the Seeker like on this like next to this, and then I like having the Ashley here. So then like the Jewel Knight that I call off of Ashley will be on the force markers, and then that way like you get more synergy and stuff. And then this is just going to swing for like a big number, and you can usually pass the crits here because like you can then like poke with this and then call something, give it a crit, and then it's, you know, you just have like so many ways to flex with this deck. Like the resource this deck kind of like thrives off good resource management, and this is like a super crazy extender. But the other thing is that because you're constantly putting back triggers, you can put back heals, you can put back PGs, you can put back crits, so the deck becomes like deceptively tanky because you're more likely to like re-drive check these cards like over and over again, and like re-drive checking heals is basically giving the deck like a counter charge because you can then like choose what you want to take, and then like drive checking draws is like just always very good because more cards to hand, more PGs, and like I said, just being able to recycle stuff is very nice. So that's pretty much it for the deck profile. I think this is a pretty fun deck, and maybe I'll upload some more soon. I have a couple other decks that I'm going to show, but I won't take much longer. I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.